The zombie apocalypse has arrived. The good news is, my home is in northeast China. The zombies are all frozen solid. Every morning, my aunts go out into the snow to dig up zombies and bring them home to burn as firewood. Hey, third aunt. Going out to dig up zombies for the fire again. Yeah. I like to dig up the chubby ones. They have more fat. The ordinary-looking zombies are snatched up by everyone to heat their brick beds. The good-looking ones are frozen into ice sculptures and taken away to the ice and snow world. The kids play outside all day long, using zombies as sleds and building snowmen with zombie heads. There is no fear of zombies in anyone's eyes. Only a deep desire for this new energy. I was reborn exactly 1 month before the zombie apocalypse began. I stood at the company entrance, holding the receipt from a traffic accident I had just handled. The moment I walked through the door, I was brutally scolded by my boss. He yelled, "Do you even care about your job?" My direct supervisor, Mal Bufan, was spitting right in my face. From this morning until now, the project team tagged you 6 times on the work app. Where the hell have you been? My colleagues in the office all turned to look at me. He often humiliated people in front of everyone like this, just to show off how powerful he was. In my previous life, I was hit by a car while riding my e-bike to work. I wasn't seriously injured, but I spent the whole morning dealing with the driver and police. I had immediately messaged my boss to ask for leave. Usually, when I needed him urgently, he would ignore me for half a day, booty team time off. He pretended not to see it, and deliberately kept pressuring me to reply to the group chat. I was only responsible for communicating with the team. And another colleague of mine was also in the chat. Those messages didn't even require my immediate response. I hadn't had a drop of water or a bite of food all morning. After handling the accident, I rushed back to the company. Even though the accident happened during my commute, the company didn't file it as a workplace injury. They took away my perfect attendance bonus and even deducted a full day's pay. On top of that, Best B forced me to work overtime past midnight to catch up. As a result, a month later, zombies flooded the streets, like dumplings being dropped into boiling water. I had been rushing the project for a week. Completely oblivious, I went downstairs to buy coffee and was ambushed by a one-armed zombie with lightning speed. It lunged and pinned me to the ground. When I felt the excruciating pain of flesh being torn from my arm, I hadn't even thought of my last words. All I had time to scream was the universal northeast exclamation of pain. Ouch, holy sh*t. At the moment my consciousness faded, my mind was filled with thoughts of my hometown. The more I thought about it, the angrier I got. Now that I've been reborn, I am not going to put up with this BS anymore. My homesickness materialized in that exact moment and turned into a massive, full-swing slap that landed right on my bastard boss's bald head. With a loud asterisk, smack asterisk, the office fell into dead silence. Mal Bufan looked stunned. He belatedly covered his head and finally choked out, "Are you crazy?" before he could continue. This time it was my turn to verbally destroy him. I pointed right at his nose and yelled at the top of my lungs, "Let me tell you something. I come to work to earn a living, not to be a dog for you and this company. I got hit by a car and waited on the street all morning for the police. Did you even ask once if I was okay? Mao Bufen's face turned red, then white. He was trembling with anger. He pointed a shaking finger at me and finally squeezed out, You're rebelling. I turned around and started packing my things. Moving fast. Looking sharp. And I didn't forget to add one last thing. Iki. I've already submitted my resignation to the big boss. If you dare to interfere with it, I'll be asking for more than just last month's salary. Seeing his face turn as black as the bottom of a wok, I smiled brightly. I counted it out for him on my fingers. If you want to settle this privately, my student loan subsidy is 5,000. Plus workplace injury compensation for my commute accident. You owe me medical fees. On top of that, with last month's salary, the company owes me 12,000. Don't even think about shorting me a single dime. Mao Bufen stormed off to complain to the big boss. As soon as he left, the quiet office instantly exploded into chatter. The intern, Zhao Guan, rushed over, giving me a big thumbs up. You're a legend, Buyu. I've wanted to curse him out for ages, but now that you've lost your job, what are you going to do? Sister Zhong from the next cubicle frowned, visibly anxious for me. Buyu. The economy is bad right now. Finding a job is harder than climbing to heaven. Many companies are laying people off and cutting salaries. Taking a break is fine. But you should start looking for a new job soon. She turned her head, her eyes filled with a hint of envy. It must be nice. You're young and have plenty of opportunities. Sur afraid premier justement. Just as I was about to say something back to her, the sarcastic older colleague who always made snide remarks suddenly chimed in. Her voice wasn't too loud or too soft, but perfectly pitched for everyone to hear. Young people these days are just too spoiled. They can't handle the slightest bit of hardship. She must be a rich kid, never having to worry about her next meal. The colleagues around her chimed in to mock me too. She's probably going home to leech off her parents. Anyway, her mom and dad can support her for a lifetime. Une liquesse. We have elderly parents and kids to feed. We don't have the luxury of acting so recklessly. They all looked me up and down, exchanging judgmental glances, and chuckled in quiet agreement. Work, I sneered inwardly. In just 1 month, every street and alley in this miserable city will be swarming with howling zombies. You won't even be able to save your lives. Who's gonna care about work? Right now, I just want to go back to the Northeast. Back to my parents' side. Even if I still can't escape death in the end. Premier ou entendit, ennemi homeland. With my backpack on, I walked out of the building without looking back. I quit 7 or 8 work group chats, and the moment I uninstalled the work app, I felt my entire soul ascend to a higher plane. I specifically sent a message to Zhao Guan and Sister Zhong, earnestly warning them. Stock up on as much food and water as you can. If you can go back to your hometowns, do it immediately. Don't stay in the city. Something huge is going to happen in a month. Zhao Guan replied, like what? The end of the world, pretty much. Zhao Guan instantly replied with a long string of ha-ha-ha. He asked if I had been reading too many web novels, and told me my top priority should be deleting my reading apps. Compared to him, Sister Zhong was much more tactful. She said I was just too exhausted from overtime, and told me not to overthink things, and to just rest well. I wanted to say more to them, but I swallowed my words. My top priority wasn't deleting novel apps. It was hurrying home as fast as possible. I bought the earliest flight available. After the plane, I took a train. After the train, I took a bus. After the bus, I took a motorized tricycle. Just when I was so exhausted I barely looked human, I finally arrived home. Carrying bags of all sizes, I got off, trembling on my feet, looking more like a zombie than an actual zombie. Seeing our familiar courtyard, and the jars of fermented soybean paste. I was so emotional I almost burst into tears. I called out, "Mom." The next second, my mom rushed out of the house. She grabbed my hand, surprised and overjoyed. "My baby girl is home. Why didn't you tell me you were coming back? You wait until you're in the village to call me. If you had told us earlier, I would have had your dad drive to the city to pick you up." The last time we saw each other was during the Lunar New Year. She knew I had to leave by the 5th day of the new year. Words begging me to stay reached her lips, but she always swallowed them back down. When it was time to go, she would stand at the door, watching my dad drive me away. Perhaps the destiny of every Northeast child is to leave their homeland behind. It was rare for my mom to see me on a non-holiday, and she couldn't stop smiling. Her eyes sparkled. "I stewed a chicken for you. Are you happy? And your favorite chili, fried with soybean paste. Just wait until you eat. It's so good it'll knock you over." My dad also popped his head out. He just said, "It's good you're back." Holding my mom's hand, my nose tingled, and tears almost fell. Emila's life into the world. To make a lot of money, thinking that would make my parents proud. But thinking about it now, I'm actually a very cowardly person. I don't have grand ambitions. When I was treated as a crunchy little snack and chewed to pieces by zombies, I truly regretted it. I regretted not staying by my parents' side. I don't want to make money anymore. I don't want to go out and struggle anymore. I just want to stay with my mom and dad. Inti life. Our family must survive together. I sniffled and said, "Mom, Dad, I'm not going back to the city. I'm staying home with you from now on. But I won't be making any money. You guys will have to support me." My dad looked pleasantly surprised. "Oh ho. The sun must be rising from the west. You eat over 20 pickled cabbage dumplings in one meal. Your mom is going to have to make a lot more pickled cabbage." My mom shot him a look, patted me back, and smiled widely. "It's good you're back. Struggling out there is too exhausting. Mom and Dad can afford to support you. Eat whatever you want. We will support you for the rest of your life." Backed by my mom's bold promise, I devoured half a pot of stewed chicken for lunch. I sprawled on the sofa, watching my parents chat casually. I was feeling anxious, not knowing how to bring up the impending zombie apocalypse. After thinking it over, I decided to just tell them the truth. "Mom, Dad, do you know what zombies are? The kind that bites people." My mom looked suspicious, but feigned a bit of interest. My dad stopped scrolling on his phone and turned his eyes toward me. So, I cleared my throat and began my dramatic performance. since I died so early in my previous life. I had no idea when the apocalypse would ever end. Or rather, it's uncertain if it will ever end at all. I drew from all the zombie movies and novels I had consumed, racking my brain, piecing it together, and exaggerating the description heavily. My parents were stunned. The room fell dead silent. Then my mom spoke. "Oh my God. Have you worked yourself stupid in the big city? Always making up these wild fantasies?" She glared at me, her mouth firing like a machine gun. "That's all fake stuff from the TV to trick people. It's fine if you just say nonsense like this at home. But if you go outside and spout this garbage to others, your dad and I will lose all our face. The neighbors will laugh at you." My dad was laughing so hard he couldn't stand straight. His shoulders were shaking. And he even had the mood to joke with my mom. "Zombies, huh? Your second uncle's dog is named Sangbao. Does he count as a relative to these zombies? If so, I think I'll go take care of him first." Okay, basically, I completely wasted my breath. The trust between my parents and me is roughly equivalent to a potato. All my earnest explaining, while it failed to raise their vigilance, did successfully raise their concern for me. My mom stewed chicken and ribs for me for 3 days straight, convinced I had suffered terribly in the big city and endured inhuman torture and abuse. Since that plan failed, I came up with a new one. One day during dinner, I pretended to casually mention, "The weather has been really weird these past few years. Summer is hot enough to kill you, and winter is freezing cold." My parents immediately agreed. Feeling the exact same way, I continued my sounding nonsense. A classmate of mine who works at the Meteorological Bureau said, "This winter is going to be brutally cold. It might drop to -50 or 60 degrees around here. It won't even thaw out by April." The moment I said that, my parents' expressions changed rapidly right before my eyes. First, they stood frozen like statues. Then they looked horrified, like they were facing a great enemy. My mom looked incredibly worried, slapping her thigh. "Oh no. The 2 tons of cabbage I hoarded won't be enough to eat. And the meat in those 2 freezers definitely won't be enough either. This trick really worked." My mom kept muttering to herself. But my dad was hesitant. He waved his hand and said, "Hold on, don't rush. I'll go out and gather some intel. If we hoard too much and can't eat it all, that's a problem too. It'll be a waste of money." He said he was going for intel, but actually, he just went to play mahjong. My mom and I both knew exactly what he was doing. My dad threw on his coat and left. But he wasn't gone long before he hurried back in a panic. His face was full of terror, even more than my mom's. My dad slapped his thigh and said, "Oh my God. Guess what they're saying? They said this winter is going to be brutally cold and incredibly long. His great-aunt's family, just one old man and one old lady, already hoarded 3 tons of cabbage this year." Of course they did. I hadn't been idle these past couple of days either. Every day when I went out for a walk after meals, I specifically mingled with the groups of old folks. I'd grab anyone to chat and told my story with total conviction. What ed te believed. Once I mentioned it would drop to -40 degrees this winter, They all rushed to the morning market the next day to hoard food. With them, as an example, my parents were now completely convinced. Northeast, people's fear of the extreme cold, is carved into our bones. Thanks to my little push, the entire village activated super hoarding mode. First were the staple foods. My dad called our neighbor, Uncle Wong, driving the family's small four-wheel tractor. They went to the town's grain depot. In one trip, they brought back 5,000 catties of rice, 3,000 catties of flour, along with some corn grits, and sorghum. These are all non-perishable, hard currencies. After bringing them home, my mum stored the rice and flour in large ceramic vats, prepared in advance. She tied plastic sheets tightly over the rims and pressed large stones on top to prevent moisture and mold. The corn grits and sorghum were packed into woven bags and stacked in a dry corner of the root cellar. Busy that. I had my mom steam extra batches of sticky bean buns and pickled cabbage and tofu buns. Once steamed and cooled, she put them directly into freezer bags and into the deep freezer. They froze solid. Whenever we wanted to eat them, a quick steam would do. With staples fully stocked, it was time for the dishes. This is usually the main event of Northeast winter hoarding. The core trio is cabbage, potatoes, and radishes. But considering that once the apocalypse starts, the smoke and noise from stir-frying would attract the zombies' attention, I just had my dad drive his car on the Tukashim to the largest pre-packaged meal wholesale market in the city. Once there, we went straight to the market boss. After explaining our purpose, we paid him a deposit up front. And then the shopping began. I didn't skip a single one of my favorite classic dishes. Pork stew, candied sweet potatoes, guobru sweet and sour pork and cabbage stew with glass noodles, Disanxion stir-fried potato, eggplant, and pepper, stir-fried dried tofu chicken with mushrooms, etc. Every dish I could think of. I ordered 5,000 portions of each. At the same time, slice. Eating pre-packaged meals every day gets boring. With hot pot ingredients in the -30 or 40-degree cold. With the doors locked tight, eating hot pot with my family would make the zombies outside die of jealousy. After securing the dishes, my dad and I turned back and went to the vegetable garden at the edge of the village. This was the largest plot in the village, growing emergency vegetables. We contacted Uncle Chong, who manages this plot, and ordered 2 tons of vegetables from him. Coupled with the 2 tons of cabbage Mom had already hoarded, it should be enough. As for solar panels, on my way back a few days ago, I had already contacted a factory in the city to customize them. Now, they were already installed on our roof. Looking at the abundant supplies, and my parents bustling around me. Even though I knew the apocalypse was imminent. My fear of it wasn't nearly as deep as when I was first reborn. No matter what difficulties we face, as long as our family works together, we can definitely overcome any hardship. The food preparation was mostly complete, but fuel and warming supplies were just as vital. Winter in the Northeast is cold enough to freeze your ears off. Without enough fuel, you simply can't survive it. My dad called a coal delivery truck in advance, and they delivered 2 tons of high-quality, smokeless coal. It was piled in the coal shed, covered with a plastic tarp, to prevent rain and snow from getting it wet. My mom also pulled out all the thick quilts and cotton-padded jackets and pants. She aired them out to fluff them up, and additionally bought a few more new thick quilts and heavy coats. J'eus une case. Lastly, there were various miscellaneous emergency items. Medical alcohol, kerosene lamps, and outdoor survival gear were also prepared. Of course, cold medicine, fever reducers, and anti-inflammatory drugs were absolutely essential. Just in case someone got sick, we'd have them ready. After bustling about for almost a week, our family's hoarding was finally thoroughly complete. The storehouse was filled with grain. The route cellar was packed with vegetables, and the freezers were stuffed to the brim with meat. Zikwa in the shed and along the courtyard wall was piled higher than a person. Looking at all these stockpiled supplies, I felt much more at ease. My dad sat in the yard, smiling and saying, "Even if the sky falls now, we can hold out for a good while." My mom was tidying up in the kitchen, planning what to make for dinner. On the third day after we finished hoarding, the zombie apocalypse truly began. That mort. I hadn't even gotten out of bed yet when I was woken up by eerie cries coming from outside. Those cries didn't sound human, nor did they sound like animals. They were hoarse, shrill, and made my scalp tingle. I quickly got up and ran to the window to look. On the small path at the village entrance, there were several greenskin, wandering around aimlessly. They walked with a staggering, swaying gait, their postures grotesque, and their faces devoid of any expression. They were zombies. My heart skipped a beat, and I quickly yelled for my mom and dad, hearing my shouts. My parents rushed over too, seeing the scene outside. My mom's face turned pale with fright. My dad frowned and hurried to lock the front gate. My dad said, in a low voice, "Nobody go outside. Stay in the house." The eerie cries outside multiplied, rising and falling everywhere. There were also screams from the villagers and the sound of doors slamming shut. I took out my phone. Thankfully, there was still a bit of signal. I opened a news app, and it was flooded with reports of zombie outbreaks everywhere. The cities were in utter chaos. There were reports of zombies attacking people everywhere, along with many videos of chaotic scenes. I quickly put my phone away, not daring to look any further. Right at that moment, the village loudspeaker suddenly crackled to life. It was the village chief's voice. His voice carried a slight tremble, but he tried his best to remain calm. "Attention, villagers. Unidentified monsters have appeared outside. They will attack people. Everyone must stay in your houses. Do not open your doors. Do not go outside." The village chief repeated the message several times. Every time, the sense of urgency deepened. Hearing the chief's broadcast, the atmosphere in our house grew even more tense. The three of us sat in the room, nobody saying a word. We could only hear the eerie cries coming from outside, and occasional thuds. I knew those thuds were most likely zombies banging on the villagers' doors. My mom gripped my hand tightly, her palms covered in sweat. My dad stood guard by the door, his eyes vigilantly watching outside, holding a wooden stick in his hand. The first day passed just like that, in fear and unease. The cries of the zombies outside never stopped. During that time, there were also several instances of zombies banging against our front gate. Thump, thump. Every sound felt like it was hitting right on our hearts. We didn't dare cook a big meal for lunch or dinner. Simply eat a pre-pledge meal and ate them with steamed buns. Under such tense circumstances, no one really had an appetite anyway. When it was time to sleep that night, none of us dared to return to our own rooms. We made a floor bed in the living room. My dad practically didn't close his eyes all night, staying on guard by the door. On the second day, the howling outside still didn't weaken. If anything, it seemed denser. The phone signal grew worse and worse, until finally, it was completely gone. Suddenly, with a loud crash, it sounded like a fence was smashed open by a horde of zombies. This was followed by chaotic footsteps, crunching in and irregular, howling noises drawing closer. The noise sounded like it was coming straight for our house. "Don't come out. I'll go see what's happening." After saying that, my dad gripped his stick, opened the door a crack, and peeked out. It turned out the zombies weren't coming for our house, but had charged straight into Grandpa New's house next door. Grandpa New had been picked up by his son to live comfortably in the city last year. His old house here had been sitting empty. So the zombies breaking into Grandpa New's house didn't cause any actual harm. While we breathed a sigh of relief, our hearts also felt even more uncertain about the future. We passed a few more days in a daze, living in constant fear, amidst the continuous cries of zombies. But at some point, the sounds of the zombies outside began to fade. Binon. They were almost completely inaudible. The entire village became extraordinarily quiet. So quiet that it was unsettling. My dad frowned and said, "Don't you feel like the noise has gotten way softer?" I was wondering the same thing. Had rescue forces arrived? Or did something else happen? Just as we were puzzled, several knocks sounded on our gate. Then came our neighbor Uncle Wang's voice. "Are you home? Come out and take a look. It's safe outside." Hearing Uncle Wang's voice, my dad first asked cautiously, "Old Wang, what's going on out there? Where are the zombies?" Uncle Wang's voice carried the relief of someone who survived a disaster. "The zombies are all frozen solid, turned into ice sculptures. Come out and see for yourself," half believing and half doubting. My dad carefully moved the wooden stick securing the door and opened it just a crack to look out. Outside in the yard and on the path, zombies were standing everywhere. They were frozen in all kinds of poses, completely motionless, covered in a thick layer of white frost. They really looked exactly like ice sculptures. Uncle Wang was standing at our front gate. "Me Dad." He laughed and said, "See? I wasn't lying, was I?" This damn sudden drop in temperature froze all these monsters stiff. My mom and I quickly hurried to the door too. Seeing the scene outside, we both breathed a massive sigh of relief. It turned out that over the past 2 days, temperatures in the northeast had plummeted. Daytime temperatures dropped to -20 or 30 degrees Celsius. And night temperatures plummeted to -40. With temperatures that low, let alone humans, even zombies couldn't endure it. They were frozen directly into ice sculptures, completely losing their ability to attack. My dad opened the gate fully and walked out. My mom and I followed him out as well. The villagers gradually began to open their doors too. looking at the frozen zombies. Their faces showed both relief and lingering fear. Many people saw me and walked over proactively to shower me with praise. Boo you, thank goodness for you. If you hadn't gone around warning us to stock up, hiding in our homes these past few days would have starved us. I smiled and waved my hands. It was nothing. As long as everyone is safe. Now that supplies were abundant, and the zombies outside were frozen solid, we were finally truly safe. Right at that moment, my phone suddenly vibrated. It miraculously caught a faint signal. Immediately after, a phone call came through. It was my company boss, Mao Bufin. Seeing his name, Première Frenade. After hesitating for a moment, I decided to answer it. On the other end of the line came Mao Bufin's frantic, tearful voice. Bu, savez-vous? Quick, save me, I sneered coldly, and deliberately said in a slow, drawn-out voice. Oh, Boss Mao, what's wrong? Aren't you doing just fine staying at the company? Mao Bufin was panicking intensely, his voice trembling. The company is surrounded by zombies. They're everywhere outside. We're trapped in the office. The other employees, they're all dead. In my past life exploited me, making me work overtime for a month straight. That I didn't even know the apocalypse was happening. It was while I went downstairs to buy coffee to stay awake that I met my doom. Now, it was his turn to suffer. How could I possibly save him? I stayed completely silent. Mao Bufin sensed my coldness and quickly said, Boo you. I know I was wrong before. I shouldn't have targeted you. I'm begging you. Please save me. I overheard Sister Zhong say earlier that you told her to hoard supplies. You definitely have a way out. Are you in a safe house right now? Are you safe? Can you come and rescue me? Sûr. You just wait for me. I'll be right there to save you. After saying that, I hung up the phone directly. Savim? Keep waiting. I wanted to give Mao Bufin a tiny sliver of hope. Let him linger on his last breath, clinging to that tiny hope. Until the moment of ultimate despair arrives. After hanging up, my dad had already gone outside, getting ready to carry those frozen zombies back to burn as firewood. Winters in the northeast are freezing and we go through firewood fast. These zombies would come in very handy. I followed him out as well, helping my dad move the stiff zombies into the coal shed, stacking them up with the firewood. And all. My mom made pickled cabbage stewed with glass noodles and tossed in a few pieces of cured meat. Our family of 3 sat around the Kong table, eating the piping hot cabbage and noodle stew, and drinking warm corn porridge. Our bodies were so warm we even started to sweat. It felt like every pore on our bodies had opened up in comfort. Out in the yard, the sun shone on the frozen zombies, reflecting a cold, icy light. But inside our home, it was a scene of warmth and harmony. As premier acte, I thought of Mao Bufin's crying and screaming on the phone. I thought about the terrifying scenes of zombies ravaging the cities that the news had reported earlier. Cities are densely populated. Once the outbreak started, it quickly spiraled, completely out of control. But us, because we hoarded supplies early, and thanks to the extreme cold of the northeast, we were able to sit comfortably in the apocalypse, eating hot meals. This stark contrast made me even more grateful that I had returned to my hometown. And even more grateful that I had prepared in advance. In the days that followed, the villagers started finding uses for those frozen zombies. Some moved them next to their courtyard walls, stacking them into a barricade to block out any other potential dangers. Some moved them into their yards to use as firewood. Everyone's life gradually returned to normal. Every day, besides organizing supplies, chopping wood, and cooking, we would chat with our neighbors. Life was peaceful and secure. A while later, I received a message from my former colleague, Sister Zhang. Sister Zhang had listened to my advice and returned to her hometown early. She had also hoarded plenty of supplies, even though her hometown wasn't in the northeast. It was quite remote, so there weren't many zombies. She and her family safely survived the apocalypse. Sister Zhang told me that none of those people from the company survived. Some were attacked right at the beginning of the outbreak. Some, because they hadn't hoarded food, ended up starving to death in the office. As for Mao Bufan, word was that after I hung up on him, he called many other people begging for help. But no one was willing to help him. In the end, he couldn't hold on either. Hearing this news, I felt absolutely no sympathy. Yurip. What you saw? Those people bullied others in the company, made sarcastic remarks, and dismissed the kindness of others. Now that they met such an end, they brought it entirely upon themselves. But as for me and the villagers, made preparations in advance. And because we helped each other, we ultimately survived this disaster safely. After the apocalypse was over, life slowly got back on track. I never went back to the city to work. Instead, I stayed in my hometown, helping my parents tend to the fields, and occasionally gathering with the neighbors. Winter in the northeast remains freezing cold, but zombies never appeared again. The sunlight shines on the snow, reflecting a dazzling light, warm and bright, just like our lives right now.